Today on the podcast, I'm excited to be joined by a special guest who's kept us entertained over the past 12 months in the role of Phill Whittaker. He may have left Weatherfield now, but he'll always be remembered for his whirlwind romance with Fizz, his playful bromance with Tyrone, and of course, how many L's he has in his name. It's Jamie Kenna. Jamie, thank you for coming on the show today.
Hello, thank you for having me. No, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Phill with two L's.
Phill with two L's. Boom. Make sure you get it right. Some people write Phill with one L, and I can't accept it.
And it felt like, towards the end of your time on the show, they were just making a point of it, even in the scripts of the programme.
Yeah, well, it was actually, they did actually make a point of it to me, and it was Charlie DeMello that actually really, really laboured it, and I became around the building, oh, look, it's Phill with two L's. Well, then Jamie just went out the window. I've actually changed my name by default to Phill with two L's.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, first of all, on behalf of the Corrie watching community, can I say how sorry to hear we were to hear that you'd left the show recently, because Phill has been such a lovely character. I think he could have settled into Weatherfield quite nicely. So was it always intended to be a year-long contract, or was it a case of coming on for a short stint last year and then it was extended? How did that all work?
So, well, no. If anything, it was the opposite. I came in for 7 episodes, and they weren't sure. They weren't sure how long it was going to run. They said it might go a little bit longer than that, depending on obviously chemistry and whether they can see a story. So, I ended up doing 83 episodes. So no, it was always going to be a short-lived thing, and actually, it was because of what happened with, I think, probably more me and Tyrone than anything else, that the writers discovered this kind of, this pot of gold of this little and large thing that really worked. And obviously me and Jenny hit it off and got on really well. So I outstayed my welcome, if anything. I want to say I'm gutted to have left. I didn't want to leave. Did you know? No, and I can say that now because I've gone. And as you've seen from the story, the door's very much open.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I've made my feelings very clear that I want to stay, and they've made their feelings very clear that they wanted me to stay, but it just, they write these things so far in advance that the storyline was coming to an end, and it had to come to an end. And it does make sense that, Phill doesn't want to hang around and watch someone else live out his fairy tale. He's heartbroken. He's absolutely heartbroken. So why would you kind of sit around the corner and just watch that unfold? I don't think you would. I think, he's a bit of a fool, but he's got a bit of dignity. So I think he had to kind of slope off a bit.
Yeah. Have you got any idea about what you would want your return story to be? Have you got anything plotting?
Well, I mean, the amount of what's been so touching and so moving is the backlash from me leaving. Because, you come in and you disrupt a Tyrone and Fizz, and people weren't sure from the off, and there's all these conspiracy theories about how bad I was going to turn out to be, and I was related to John Stape and all of this kind of stuff. And I think it's kind of tragic, because I finally won everyone over, and everyone was like kind of becoming Team Phill, and then I've gone. But so I thought, I'll fine, they'll just move on. But I think, everyone, I've had so many messages on social media, and I know people have written into the studios. I think there's a petition flying around, I think, saying that they want him to stay. And all these different options for storylines, getting with Jenny in the pub, Mary's another one that comes up. Bernie's even been mentioned. What else is there? There's been a few. There was even a Toya, I think.
What's that?
Yeah, everyone's trying to matchmake Phill.
Is there any particular ladies that you think he'd be best suited to shacking up with?
I don't know. I think he's genuinely going to take some time. I don't think he can just come straight back in. I think Jenny is a natural choice, because I think they've had some chemistry, and I think they've had some laughs and a bit of banter in the Rovers. I think they're a good mix. I mean, I absolutely love Jane Hazelgrove. Yeah. And so to be with Bernie would be amazing, but I just don't think Bernie's for Phill. I think she'd run rings around him. And also, I love Sue Devaney. Sue and Jane are two of my best friends, and so I would love to get with Debbie. I mean, and I think that would really work comedically as well, with the size of Phill and stuff. But obviously, she's got big, handsome Ronnie, and I'm not going to get in his way. So,
do you not reckon that Phill could take him on?
I don't know. Yeah, Vince is a lovely man, but no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure Phil's the fighting type unless there's an inflatable unicorn involved.
Yeah, very, very true. Well, yeah, Phill was definitely a lover more than a fighter usually, wasn't he? He was definitely a really beloved character, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm personally a bit of a Fizz and Tyrone fan, but equally, I also thought that Phill was just right for Fizz as well. Was it the aim of the producers, do you think, to make viewers not sure who to support?
Yes, definitely. As it unfolded, 100%. Because I think what Phill brings is all the stuff that were the flaws in Fizz and Tyrone's relationship. You know, the fact that he said to her in his parting speech, you know, you were always enough for me. You know, and that was the whole thing about Tyrone. Fizz was never enough. You know, he got his head turned by Alina and all of that stuff. And I think Phill it was genuine, unconditional love. He just loved her. He just thought the world of her. Thought the sun shone out of her backside. You know, and Tyrone never did. So I think they definitely played off, and they put Fizz in the middle of this thing. But then the natural kind of love and chemistry that she had with Tyrone. In fact, she was never over him. In fact, she never wanted to split up with him. He was her everything. Yeah, I definitely think they were very clever in pitching, you know, me and Tyrone against each other, and then brilliantly developing this bromance, which myself and Alan sort of developed off screen, and they kind of jumped on that.
Yeah, I mean, you've been nominated for an Inside Soap Award this year, haven't you, for Best Double Act with Alan?
I know, it's madness. We've been texting each other the other day about it. Because a lot of the stuff, I mean, you know, a lot of the stuff we've come up with has been us just messing around, and directors, you know, really liking it. And you know, there was little moments, I don't know if you remember it, when we came round, it was for the chocolate eclairs, when I came out to get the chocolate eclairs, when we just moved into the house. And I do a thing, and I sort of just tapped him on the back, and Alan just does a little jump forward.
Yeah.
And it's little moments like that me and Alan have just sort of developed, and the cameras have loved it, and the directors have loved it, and the editors have thankfully kept it in. That's enabled us to build up, you know, to these moments. And the concrete was just, you know, it was the pinnacle of it, I think.
Was that your favourite scene that you filmed with him, the concrete one?
Well, no, it was actually horrendous. It was actually horrendous.
Well, it looked pretty great. What was it they used? It can't have been real concrete, was it?
No. It was this potato starch stuff. I'm told it's the stuff they use in McDonald's milkshake. So I will never be having one of those. And it was freezing cold. It was raining, and the stuff. I don't know. It kind of clung to your skin. So it's like having an ice pack, like strapped to your body. And we were on location. So we only had these kind of, you know, the Winnebagos that the showers are, you know, like being weed on by an old man. It's not conducive to a freezing cold day in Manchester when you're covered in crap. Yeah, but I mean, we made the best of it, but we were both sort of mildly hypothermic at the end of it. But
and then you had to shoot yourself down with shoot each other down with hoses at the end of it, didn't you?
I know, and they promised us it was going to be warm water. They were like, "No, we piped warm water into these hoses," and it really wasn't. But by the end of the day, that was the last shot.
Yeah.
There was nothing we could do about it, and we had to get the shot done because we've been there all day and we've been delayed for rain. So we just had to do it in the freezing cold. Luckily, I swim in the sea because I live down in Brighton, and I swim in the sea all year round, so I'm kind of used to the cold water, cold weather. Alan is not. And bless him, the little flower. He was shivering away. I had to wrap him up in Phil's chest wig.
It was a bit embarrassing as well, just being, you know, nearly naked there in front of a whole film crew.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, there was that moment because we had an actual individual meeting with the producer.
Yeah.
We got a WhatsApp. I think it was a Friday afternoon, and the producer's PA messaged and went, "Are you free for a Zoom with Ian, the producer, at 5:00?" Which is never, you're kind of, oh no, what have I done? What's happened? And it was me, Alan, and Ian McLeod, the producer. And he said, "Look, I've had this idea, but I want to run it past you before the writers can write it up." And he said about the concrete, you two having a fight in the concrete, looking for the engagement ring. And he said, then at the end, I thought it'd be funny if you kind of both strip off and hose each other down in your underpants. So I was like, this is probably the weirdest Zoom I've ever had. But we both said yes straight away.
Yeah. Was it a case of, you know, he's the boss, we can't really say no to him?
Well, no, I mean, he's a really good lad and he's such a nice guy. And he was sort of giggling to himself. No, it was more the thought of, you know, I feel so privileged and so honoured to have come into this show for, I mean, I've been in a year, but for a relatively short period of time. And I've been responsible and involved in some of the classic Corrie moments. You know, when you get a lot of serious stuff and there's a lot of issues need to be addressed, but you get sinkholes and things like that. We're doing classic Corrie with the unicorn thing's going to be in montages from year to come. The concrete stuff is going to be in, people are going to talk about that. That's a real privilege and a real honour. So when the producer asks you, do you want to strip down to your pants and hose off Alan Housel? Who's going to say no to that?
Yeah. That unicorn fight was fun as well. I mean, that must have been quite fun to just like acted like a big kid for a day.
Yeah, and again, we made so much of that stuff up. Like that was not scripted to be like that. We just and Duncan Foster was the director, and he was just so up for us having a play and messing about. And I mean, there was so much footage they got of us riding the unicorn, and I think I put a picture on my Instagram just after Christmas of the unicorn sort of half deflated, dead on the street, where we'd literally like it had done its work. Yeah, it went everywhere on the street with us that day.
So tell me a bit about working with Jenny McAlpine then, because she's been a guest on the podcast a couple of times before, and she's always come across as being like one of the loveliest people on the Corrie cast. Did you find her fun to work with?
She's absolutely horrible. She's a bully.
Lies.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. She is exactly as you just described her. She's unbelievable. I got there. I mean, bear in mind, you're going into a show that's been running for 60 odd years, and you're working with someone who's been there for the last 20 odd years. I've been in this business a long time. I've been into many jobs, and I've encountered some people that, have grander feelings about themselves than they maybe ought. She's well within her rights, I think, she's seen many people come and go. She's within her rights to kind of not be dismissive, but just be like, right, okay, it's another guest actor, and she doesn't know at that point I'm staying for a year. She doesn't know I'm going to do 80 odd episodes. She was so welcoming, so giving. She was really nervous. She showed me around the building. We had lunch together. This is all on day one, and right from the off, she was just a joy. She's an absolute joy. She messaged me on my way home on my first day, said it was lovely to meet me, lovely to work with me. All these little touches that she doesn't have to do and I'm not expecting. And it's not forced with her. She absolutely loves the show. Like that, I think that's the fundamental of it. She loves the show. She's obsessed with the show. She never misses an episode. She's great at telling people, if someone's done something well. Because there's something about Corrie, you wander around and everyone's so involved in their own thing. You forget to actually turn around to people and go, wow, I really enjoyed your scene last night. She'll always go and find someone and say, I love that scene, it was great. She lives and breathes it, and that makes her a brilliant actress. She's so good to work with. All that stuff with the wedding, the scene in the kitchen, that heartbreaking scene where she leaves me basically and we're both in tears. She goes there, she really goes there, and she gives you absolutely everything. She never doesn't look you in the eyes. She delivers everything to you. She's on it. She knows her lines, all of those stuff. She's perfect. I can't speak highly enough of her. And if she'd have left Corrie years ago, I think she would be as big a star as she is now anyway.
I think we're really lucky to have her, to have kept hold of her.
Oh, massively. She's so underrated as an actress. Sometimes you work with actors and you don't have to do anything. You just think about what you're going to do, and the actor's so good. I mean, Cillian Murphy was one of those when I did Peaky Blinders. You get so much from these people, you can't really mess it up. As long as you know your lines, as long as you know what you're doing, you can't mess it up because they just give you so much to go from. And she's one of those. She's just brilliant. I love her.
It was nice to hear that she.
You're going to make me cry in a minute, Michael. You're going to make me cry.
It was good to hear that she showed you the ropes when you were there, because this has been your first like big soap gig, hasn't it? You've done a few episodes on, is it EastEnders and Doctors, I think? This is your first lengthy time on a soap. How did working on a soap compare to some of the other productions you've been involved in the past?
It's really different. It's really different, and it's really scary because it's so fast. It's like one of those things where someone's on a treadmill and then they jump off. The belt doesn't stop. You've got to somehow jump on and not go flying backwards into the wall. And it's really difficult to get used to, because I've been used to doing, I've done a lot of theatre and stuff, but also when I've done TV dramas or movies, you're shooting one scene over the course of 2 days. You know, in 2 days on Corrie, you can shoot about 15 episodes. Like it's insane. And you've got to be on point and you've got to deliver. But then you might be doing a scene from this episode, and then you go across to another block and you're doing a scene from an episode where this episode doesn't even happen, and you haven't even met this person, and you're going, oh. So you've got to get used to all that. And again, she was brilliant, Jenny, at helping me, because you get kind of 1 or 2 takes, and you've got to get used to going, right, you've got to hit the ground running, and you've got to get used to going, that's okay. And you've got to put faith in the directors that, you know, that know what they're doing, and the crew and everyone. And that takes some getting used to. You know, when you're doing it and it's on you, or even worse, you don't realise it's been on you, and you think, oh, they're going to come around to me, and you're like, oh no, and then they go scene complete. You think, oh God, did I just do that? And then and for the first definitely few weeks to a month, I was sort of laying awake at night or on the train on the way home, going, oh God, everyone's going to see how bad I am. But yeah, no, Jenny was brilliant at explaining how that all works and her methods of dealing with that, and eventually you do get used to it, and eventually you get into a groove. And interestingly, I've gone off and done another job since then, and it was back to, you know, shooting 2 scenes in 2 days. And if anything, I was like, come on, let's get on with it. You know, what was sitting around for? Well, if we've got this, surely.
Yeah,
I'm going to shoot this shot and that shot and that shot. Yeah, it's an interesting way to work.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned the wedding episodes earlier. I'd like to talk a little bit about that for a while, if you're right. Was that kind of fun to film, getting out to the big, you know, location shoot and everything, to do the tent and everything?
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. Out in Knutsford, we filmed it. Yeah, beautiful location. Yeah, it's kind of fun. You get a bit institutionalized at Corrie, so location days are a little bit hit and miss, because when we're at Corrie, we've got the green room and the canteen and your dressing room, and you know, it's kind of like, it's quite nice. It feels quite comfortable. Yeah. And then when you go out and then you haven't got any of that, and there's no snacks in the green room, you're like, oh, okay, what do I eat now? But no, it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot, and there were some great people there. You know, Anthony Cotton, Lisa George, all of those guys, Sally Dinevert. So there was some real legends. And I'll give you a little insight. I'll give you a little secret.
Yes, please.
The registrar, and I've only just remembered this. We were doing one take, and it was on the registrar. The camera turned around, and it was the bit where Fizz and Maria walk in. And the registrar was sat down, and the registrar said, do you, Phill, take Maria? I mean, at one point I nearly married Maria. So there's
funny. Brilliant. Was it always planned out that they would end up tying the knot and that Fizz would back out? I mean, because a lot of the fans were thinking, oh, you know, she's going to pull out beforehand, or maybe they will end up settling down together. Did you know for a long time that was how it was going to play out?
Not a long time, but a few months. I knew that we were going to get married. Yeah, I think probably February time, maybe. Yeah, so it was a good few months where they decided we were going to marry. And it was all because the concrete thing, once they'd written the concrete thing, they knew the engagement ring. Yeah. That was that whole thing. So, and they decided that they wanted to, what they've loved all along, the writers and the producers, is they've loved to plant seeds about Phill being bad. So the book thing, and before that, if you remember, he was always reading some sort of weird true crime book. And, you know, there was little seeds that they wanted to plant that were red herrings. They've loved giving red herrings about Phill all the way along. And I think the wedding was the big one, where they, you know, where everything was going so wrong, and Camilla turning up and everyone's going, oh, or they thought, a lot of people thought I was going to jilt her at the altar, and that was when I was going to announce that I'm Dave's brother or something. So the kind of the viewers have done their work for them, really. Yeah. It's not so much the writers that have gone, oh, I know what we're doing. We'll just the viewers have made drawn their own conclusions, and the writers have just, you know, they're very clever at knowing what's going on in the public. So I'm hoping they're very clever at realizing that everyone wants Phill back, and they bring me back. So
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you think about how Phill was characterized in the aftermath of the wedding, where he kind of went from, utter naivety about the prospect of reuniting with Fizz to then he was standing up for himself when he refused to sign the annulment papers, then he backtracked and admitted defeat in his final episodes. How did you kind of feel that fitted with his character?
I think the trying to win her back was brilliant, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was like the writers were going, right, what else can we get him to do? Because I just didn't say no to anything. So I think that was really, really good, and I absolutely loved the scene in the pub where I ripped the annulment up. Probably my only issue was the speed in which I retreated.
Yeah, it's like the Friday you were tearing up the papers, weren't you? And then the Monday it was like, oh no, you what?
Fine, yeah, and because at the time, because I was filming, I was so busy. I mean, for about 6 weeks with all the wedding stuff and everything, I was in pretty much all day, every day. And my brain was stopping to absorb lines in the end. I was just kind of, I was just leaving the studio, going home, having some food, learning lines. So had I have probably taken more, because like I said, you're not always shooting in sequence. So that last episode was filmed like way before. That wasn't my last scene, last scene. And so you overlook sometimes the pattern of things and where things come. So had I have realised how quick the transition was, and that Friday episode was so good with the ripping up the annulment, and it looked like, well, Phil's going to go mad. Yeah. And he says, we're going to make you wait for 12 months. And then it was just one scene, or when I just turn up with all her stuff. Had I have realised that, I probably would have gone upstairs and said, look, I think we need to, I don't think I can go out with this much of a whimper, where he's kicking off in the pub and then boom, he's just going, oh, okay, I've signed it and I love you, off I go.
Yeah, because a lot of us went into that weekend thinking, oh, great, we have Phill on the show for another 12 months. And then after you left on the Monday, well, we didn't even realise, because you put that thing then on social media a couple of days later saying, yeah, I've left. And I think we needed that because we didn't realise that you'd gone.
I know. And that was the other thing is, I think if you flip that on a positive and on the good side, it's very open, because the people didn't even realise I'd left. And I think, Fizz, Tyrone, Evelyn, God, we haven't spoken about Maury Lippman yet.
Oh, no, we will.
Yeah. They're all saying, don't go, be part of our lives. And it's Phill that decides to go. So I think it very much leaves it open for him to come back. And he loves Weatherfield and he loves the girls and all of that. But yeah, no, that was the only disappointment for me, was I thought there was a little bit more mileage, even for another few episodes where he... Yeah. And what was actually meant to happen, and I think it looked better on paper than it actually did on screen, is I was meant to come out where I stood behind the scaffolding and Fizz and Tyrone and the girls come out and I see them. I think they were meant to probably stay on that longer, make more of that moment where I'm watching them basically going, do you know what? I can't, there's no point in standing in the way of this. Yeah. And it's not fair on the girls and all of that. So I think they could have resolved it by just staying on me a lot longer and watching that thought process, the anger turn to kind of
acceptance,
resolution that it's okay, fine. I've got to just let this happen, and I've got to go and lick wounds and start again.
Yeah. I think the story as well has left a bit of a sour taste in the mouths of some fans when it comes to Fizz and Tyrone. Lots of viewers still don't forgive Tyrone for going off with Alina last year, and some of them say, oh, Fizz is such a doormat for taking him back. I mean, do you think that they'll be able to regain favour with the fans in time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit much, isn't it? You're watching them kiss and cuddle and just talk about slipping upstairs for a quick one. It's a little bit much. It's sort of turned on, carry on Dobbs. But I think of course they will. Of course they will. They'll definitely forgive. And Tyrone, Alan is so annoying that he can get away with anything.
He really can.
He really can. I mean, literally, he can walk through the streets of Weatherfield with some sort of armed weapon, and people be like, "Oh, poor Tyrone," it's because Kevin hasn't given him a prize or something. It's like he's, and he knows it.
I remember before
the turn against Alan Housel on this podcast.
I remember before the affair storyline started last year, Jenny McAlpine was doing a press conferencey thing, and she said, I just know, even though Tyrone's the one that's going to be leaving me for Alina, everyone's going to be on Ty's side.
Yeah, people totally forget, because I mean, during my whole journey, there's been moments where the public have turned on Phill, with the book thing, and I knew it, I didn't trust him, and the magazines are very clever in the Phil's big dark secret. And it's like, they are all, and even at the wedding, the last shot of our wedding, we leave happily married, and it stays on him like that.
Yeah.
With his little puppy dog eyes. And we're going, he ran off with the Romanian girl. He ran off with the 21-year-old. Don't forget why I'm here. So of course they'll forgive him. Of course they will. I think once it settles down, and that's what I've been so moved about is the impact that Phil's had, the impact that I've had. That people, I think people, this probably sounds a bit self-indulgent, and it's not me, it's the character. But I think if Phill came back and settled down, or seemed happy and began to become part of the street, I think it would help people move on with Fizz and Tyrone.
Yeah,
because I think now Phil's gone off, and they're worried. People are genuinely worried about him and what's going to happen to him, and he's just taking himself off. Yeah, and I think they're annoyed with them. I think they're upset with them that they've done this to this guy.
Yeah, I still don't know whether we're going to have a smooth future for them anyway. Lots of fans are predicting that Alina's going to be coming back with a baby in tow.
Yeah, exactly. And that Phill and Alina get together. So, I'm not going to argue with
that. so let's talk about these two grand dames of the street then. So we had Evelyn and Mimi that you were working alongside. Yeah. What are they like? Tell me all, because I love both characters.
Oh, my God. I mean, Maureen Lipman, I've known for years because I met her in a play many years ago, and then we've sort of been reunited, and oh my God, she is just an utter joy. We meet up outside, we go for dinner, we go to the theatre.
Oh yeah.
She's dragged me around an art gallery or two, and she's a genius. She's an utter genius. How it's taken that long for her to get a damehood, I don't know. I mean, she's an absolute icon, and I watched her as a kid on TV, and she's exactly what you see. She's so friendly, she's so lovely, she's got so much time for everyone. She's dry as they come. She's like so witty and dry, but people stop her in the street, and she doesn't just placate people. She'll get involved in a conversation. She'll get involved in a full-on live debate with just someone who's asked her for a picture, and she's just brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. They have to hang on to her, and they know that. The guys at Corrie know that. And she comes and goes, and she goes, I'm going to work with the sloths in Borneo. And she just announced that the rest of us are like, can I have that? Can I not come in on Wednesday? Because I've got no, you're in. Maureen's like, right, I'm off for 3 months. And you're like, absolutely, but let's do that, because it's Dame Maureen Lipman. She's just brilliant. And that picture I put on my Instagram, do you remember it? When we went out for dinner, me, Jenny, Alan and Maureen, to celebrate her damehood. Yeah. Well, we were in a bar, I'm probably telling secrets here, but we were in Australasia, which is a lovely restaurant in Manchester. And then we all had a few drinks. It was really nice. And because it was meant to happen at Christmas, but COVID put a stop to it. So this was the new year. And we sort of had a few Prosecco's, and then Jenny and Maureen were like, should we go and have a little dance? And they hatched this plan to go and have a dance. And we ended up pulling up in a taxi outside New York in Manchester. And in we walked. There was about 10 people in there. And then in walks Fizz, Tyrone and Dame Maureen Lipman into this gay bar in Manchester. Oh my God, the looks on people's faces. And we sort of, Maureen stood in the corner, sashaying away in her big purple hat, and, till like 2 a.m. It was absolutely brilliant. And that sums her up. She's just a complete lifeblood. And in terms of performance, she's a genius. You watch her, and she's in a different league, I think. And she's a nightmare because she rewrites every single scene you're in. I was going to say, she seems like the sort of person that would do that. Oh, there's no point in learning it. There's no point in going down on set and going, yeah, I've learned that. Right. No, you've got to wait for the rewrites. I don't think I'd say that. I don't want to say that. And then when you do, she does agree on something. She might just say something different anyway. So, but it always works. That's the thing. So it's not like she's being annoying or diva-ish. What she does works because she absolutely knows her craft. And then Mimi, the wonderful Margot Lester, that's one of the tragedies of letting Phill go, I think, is that you let me go, you let her go. And that stuff with her and Maureen. And we all said when Mimi came in the first time, everyone was like bowled over by her, and the character was so brilliant, and so Corrie. And everyone said, we cannot not have a scene between Evelyn and Mimi. You can't. And then they not only wrote one scene, they wrote utter genius. It was it was brilliant, wasn't it? And the karaoke.
Yes. Oh gosh, that was brilliant at the reception. So good, so clever.
Yeah, and being there watching it live was perfect.
Yeah, that was Mimi's kind of final episode, wasn't it? I don't think we've seen her at all since the wedding. I mean, how do you think that the character of Mimi will be reacting to what's been going on since the wedding?
Yeah, well, I think Phil's with her now. I think he's gone home. He's eating tomato soup with his mum, and she's stroking his head, and he's in his pajamas.
Yeah,
he's back, his stripy silk pajamas, sitting. He's back in his room with all his toys and his action men. She's looking after him. Yeah, and I think there's so much scope, and I think it's madness if they don't at least get her back. I mean, you know, Phil's got this massive house. He probably needs to sell that. He hasn't got a job. You know, there's some new flats coming up in Weatherfield. There's so much scope. Yeah. And if you bring me back, you bring her back. Camilla, I think is another interesting one. It's all great Corrie fodder.
Yeah, and I could see like Evelyn and Mimi becoming like a new Ina Sharples, Minnie Caldwell, like couple in the pub or something.
Exactly.
Bring back the snug in their overs.
Yeah, and there's no one else. I don't think there's anyone else really. No. You know, Evelyn's kind of batted everyone else away. You know, she is the matriarch of the street. You know, so she's the grande dame of the street. So she needs a bit of a rivalry, I think.
Exactly.
And Mimi's the perfect one.
Agree. So you've been away from Corrie kind of a couple of months now, haven't you? So what would you say you've missed most about being on the show?
Oh, the people. I love it all. I'm an absolute. I found a home there, and I was gutted. Honestly, you ask any of the other cast when they come on here, I was so touched. I had leaving drinks. I didn't really have leaving drinks. I just sort of said I'm going to be in a pub and come along, and so many people came. You know, you like Jane Hazelgrove, who never goes to anything social. Sue Devaney, Jimmy Harkishan, all those guys turned up. You know, Trevor Michael Georges came, and these people. It was so moving, and I just have fallen in love with the place. So I miss the people, I miss the work, and like I said, I've touched wood. I've been really lucky. I came straight out. I had a job before I left, working with the brilliant Saran Jones.
Really? Another ex-Corrie there.
No, yeah, we swapped a lot of Corrie stories and talked about people who she's still in touch with. Well, her and Jenny are very good friends as well.
Yeah.
But I just really, it's an infectious place to work. It's like, you know, you're getting lots of nice bits of storyline. The people are great. You know, not just the cast, but all the canteen staff, all the ADs, all the crew. It is a massive family. And I've done other soaps, and I love the Bill. I used to have a really nice time whenever I did the Bill. But Corrie's just different. It's a real magical place. So I miss it all. Really, it's hard to pin it down. If I had to say anything, it's probably the canteen and the snack basket in the green room.
But you're not the only person that said that, you know. So what are we going to be able to see you in next then? What's your new projects that you got?
So I've just done with Saran, I've done a Christmas movie.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say, so I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
Which is really a lot of fun. It's great. She's fantastic. What a brilliant woman she is, and what a brilliant actress. And it's very funny, and it goes across different periods from the 80s, 90s.
Oh, interesting.
To possibly present day and maybe future. So and so there was a lot of wigs involved. I had a moustache, so that freaked everyone out on Instagram. Because I think whilst I was still in Corrie, I had a moustache because I was filming this other thing. Yeah. And then when I went to Lorraine, I had to have it contractually put in for this Christmas movie that I had enough time to grow my beard back, because I didn't want to go on Lorraine. When I was on Lorraine, I'd already left, but I couldn't say I'd left. So if I'd have been sitting on Lorraine with a moustache, it would have just been like, why has Phil got a moustache? What's happening? And it was too early for November, so it was all too complicated. So I was like, I'm going to have at least a week to try and grow this moustache out. And so it's all very complex facial hair issues.
That's funny.
I'm also about to go off and do something else for BritBox and HBO. And then really excitingly, I'm in Panto and Crew.
Are you? What's the Panto? What are you doing?
I'm doing Aladdin, and I'm playing Abanazar, and Louis Spence is the Spirit of the Ring. And yeah, so we're going to be doing Aladdin and Crew starting on the 16th of December through to the 8th of January.
Awesome. Well, it's really good to hear that you're keeping yourself busy. Yeah,
but this is the thing. I'm busy. I've got lots of work bubbling. There's something else that might have come in that I had a phone call about yesterday. But the bottom line is, I really miss Corrie and I want to go back. So start the petition here.
Yeah. Hashtag bring back Phill.
Hashtag bring back Phill. Go and stand outside the gates. Make some sandwich boards and placards. You know, throw like eggs at the window. No, don't do that.
Listen, Jamie, it's been so lovely having you on the podcast today. Thank you for coming on and telling us all about your time being Phill. We will miss you, and hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, it won't be the last time we'll have seen you in Weatherfield. Yeah, exactly. Well, before I go, someone sent me a YouTube link the other day of you doing your street talk post, and I heard a tiny little impression from yourself of me. Oh, I was, wasn't I? And what did you say? Jamie Kenna did a video in his very non-Phillish voice. Yeah. So I think before we go, I'd like to hear a little impression of my non-Phillish voice from you. Oh, I really want to go back to Corrie. Yeah, bring back Phill. Okay, what will that do for you? I love it. Right. And with that, I think we better call it a day. Yeah. So thank you again for coming on. Love it. Brilliant. Thanks, Michael. And listen, guys, whoever's watching, thanks so much for the support. It genuinely has meant the absolute world, and keep it going and keep in touch. So thank you very much. And hopefully I'll see you all soon. Hopefully. See ya. Bye-bye.